All right, this is a video where I want to summarize quickly what is due on Monday, February 17th. So this is the second part of the AIR assignment. The first part, as you know, was basically just going through labs, and it was more like a participation grade. This one is, as before, a full assignment, so it counts. In this assignment, we're going to implement a head-worn AR experience using Quest, so that I do not specify Quest Pro. You can use Quest 3. Eye tracking will be optional, so you can use either Quest Pro, which is in VisStudio, or Quest if you have it, or if you wanted to check it out through the North Campus Technology Checkout program. If you do check it out for a few weeks, because the VR portion following after, you will also actually need to do a little bit more with the headsets. So similar to the 3D assignment, you will be asked to implement an implicit and an explicit interaction as a minimum. Total of 3 interactions is what I ask. So first task is to create a new head-worn AR scene with camera rig and pass-through building blocks using MetaXR all-in-one SDK. You should do this. You should be able to do this very easily. But make the scene really about something that you care about. As before, use 3D models and aim for high quality. You can probably rush through the assignment, learn most things by just using 3D primitives, but you will probably not be as proud of your work if you just if you just do that. Technically, it's probably possible. So anyway, task 2 is add a total of 2 to 3 interactions. I want to see 1 to 2 implicit and 1 to 2 explicit interactions. I give examples of each of these, especially now for the AR portion. So of course, as before, implicit interactions include animation, physics, particle systems. But you should be experimenting with AR-specific ones, like the finding spawn points that we used as part of the room model, occlusion, rendering, different ways to render the pass-through, full-on pass-through, surface projected pass-through, a pass-through window. There are building blocks for that. You could also use eye gaze to, like I showed, for example, when you gaze an object, and I had like X-ray vision kind of idea, but you could just highlight it differently. And so basically more like on the affordances and feedback side. Yeah. And then explicit interactions. Like now you want to be able to interact, direct manipulation, interact with the content. So for example, grabbing, touch hand grab, and distance grab. Touch hand grab is very interesting. Something to look into. There are building blocks for that. Can experiment a little bit. And then you could also support controllers and hands, but obviously this is most often it's just like, yeah, you just add both controller and hand tracking to the scene with the building blocks, and that's for free. So if you want to make the case for having 2 explicit interactions, one using controller and one using hand, then they should be different. Like they shouldn't feel the same. They shouldn't be the same. The mechanics probably need to change, optimize more for hand versus controller interaction. That's what I would expect. Eye gaze could be implemented as an explicit interaction as well. So for example, by allowing multimodal object selection with hands or controllers only when gazed upon. Typo. And so that's like the HoloLens 1 interaction model. I don't think it's very established. You know, didn't sustain the test of time. In HoloLens 2, we've already changed it, but like, I mean, it's still cool to experiment with it. I wanted to record this interactive scene on the headset. Ideally, I would see the pass through so that I understand it's an AR scene, augmented reality scene. Sometimes there are challenges with capturing pass-through. I talk a little bit about this. There are some articles online. Most of the time, it actually works. If you just record on the headset, if you don't use SideQuest. If you do use SideQuest, sometimes it also works. But SideQuest, even though I asked them to install it in the VisStudio, SideQuest I've never really been able to connect it to the headsets there, and I couldn't troubleshoot with them either. So now the fourth task, and this is something where I've received some questions, so maybe it's important I'll say it. So the first task, which is the A+ task, adapt a previous 3D scene for Head-worn AR and record a working AR scene on the Quest headset. So now here you should take a previous 3D scene. Can be from any of the previous tasks in part 1 and part 2 of the 3D assignment. When you choose from part 2, then you need to think about whether the interactions, the interactions have to change. It wouldn't work the same with mouse. You don't have a mouse on a headset, so you need to think about like, how do you translate this? Could you use different building blocks to support this? For example, clicking an object, you can use the point interaction. the point building block. There's various ways to do this. You do not have to adjust the whole 3D scene and make it work in AR. The 3D scene probably also likely has a lot of like environment. It maybe was like large scale room or something. So you should think about, do you still need the room? Can you get rid of some of the content, focus more on the 3D characters in the foreground, but still make it an interesting AR scene, not just like showing a 3D model and that's it. That's how I would do. You should always consider user comfort, ergonomics when adapting the 3D scene. Now they would do a lot of the interactions mid-air, probably walk around, depending on how you do it. You could, of course, take a 3D scene, wrap everything into an empty parent, and then scale down that parent, and then put it on a table using, for example, the find spawning points. So as part of the room model. So this could be a very cool way to create miniature version of your 3D scene, and then you could actually leave, or maybe you want to carve out one wall or something to be able to look into it, like dollhouse style interaction. Anyway, it is up to you how you do it, but I want to see some thought and some rationale for what you do. So provide a summary of changes you had to make it work, changing object hierarchy, attributes like scale, position, removing, replacing 3D objects or parts of them. Refine it until you're happy with how it looks, but it's okay if it looks rough, okay? So I don't want you to be perfect. Also, again, one more time, you can probably focus more on the content and less on the interactions, because we'll do more and more with the interactions in the next few weeks. I do think on the VR side, but I do think it is actually a pretty good idea to think about how previous mouse interactions now translate to mid-air, gesture-based, or even voice-based interactions. I'll show more on voice, hopefully, in the VR portion, if everything works. Meta has new building blocks, so let's see. And yeah, as usual, you can find some tips and resources down there. And then when you're ready, just upload it. And this time you actually have to upload it together with your diary, is strongly recommended. And yeah, pay attention to the academic integrity reminders down there. We want to be clear where we received help and whose contributions we should acknowledge. All right, good luck with the assignment, and please use Piazza if you have any other questions. Yeah, have fun.